Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Brian Hansen. He's a consultant to B2B companies who are looking to improve their revenue strategies. He has 15 plus years in B2B SaaS, maximizing retention, driving expansion, and leveraging customer insights to increase revenue and company valuations. And in particular, Brian focuses on the intersection between people and human nature and business strategies. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Oh, thank you so much. Very excited to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Brian. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about how companies, businesses can humanize revenue, maximize results by being much more human in everything. We'll talk about all this. But before that, Brian, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I am currently sitting in my house in California, so north of San Francisco right now. And as you mentioned, I am a consultant. I've made a transition out of corporate to have a life more full of flexibility and helping more companies. And so that is getting off the ground now. And I have spent a lot of time recently dialing in who my ideal customer profile is, what I can offer, and how I can be valuable. So I look forward to talking about those things today.
Absolutely, Brian. So first, to understand, you talk about, customers are people too. We are talking, and you are talking about businesses. But don't you think, nowadays when we talk about doing all humanizing everything, isn't it a bit too late? Now customers are already very, angry with companies, and companies know that customers are angry, and they are looking towards some solace in artificial intelligence. What is your perspective on it?
So it's never too late. Never too late to dig into humanity. Not at all. So the way I like to think about it, so even that definition of customers, I like to think about customers only as a group of people, and those people have cares and wants that are very unique to them. Ultimately, we typically only care about ourselves, and we want to look good to somebody else. And so that's the way I like to think about how to connect with customers, and really understanding those individual people and what they want to achieve. And that's the best way to align to bring quantifiable value to their world, to their roles, is to understand them first and what they want and what they care about.
Absolutely, Brian. So I want to understand from you first, to understand what sparked your shift towards a people-focused revenue strategy. Means you are one of the few people, others are also there, but a lot of companies just talk. You can see all that talk and no walking the talk. So I want to understand your interest into this particular, things of all business side of humanity, or humanity side of business.
Yeah, I mean, well, the walk and the talk comes down to the humanity side leads to revenue. It leads to money, which is why all business is in business in the first place, is to make money. So when I think about the strategies that I enjoy working on, I'll give you an example. Somebody today was talking about their churn, and they were talking about the fact that customers don't get live fast enough. The onboarding takes too long. So when they buy this B2B SaaS product, the software product, they then, to your point about kind of human nature, it says they go off and they do the things that are perhaps more important to them than getting a piece of software live. But those are the type of conversations where you have to be very transparent and you have to be very direct, is to say to somebody, say the quiet part out loud, AJ, which is like, I know that you're going to get distracted. You're going to get distracted. You're going to walk away from this onboarding. We're going to feel good that we signed a contract and that we can deliver value to you. But then you're going to go be distracted by other things. So what are we going to do when that happens? And that type of transparent human communication will then lead to a conversation that says, okay, you're being honest. We're all being honest together. Here's our plan. Or let's create a plan so that distraction doesn't lead to us not getting value from your product. And what that dotted line to is they onboard, they use the product, they stay around, they expand with you, and so it's more revenue. So connecting on a human level from a walk the talk the talk always comes back to how are we driving revenue?
Absolutely. So who is your ideal customer here? B2B companies or companies, B2C companies? Who are you generally talking about when you talk about taking care of the customers? It is, yeah, if you are talking about B2B, then it almost sounds like, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It's a mutual admiration club, but the problem is much more with B2C. Help us understand with that perspective here, Brian.
It's a good question. I do think of B2B still as B2C because as I mentioned, like we've got stakeholders, we've got individual stakeholders that care about themselves. And in that sense, they are the C, they are the consumer, that user of the software. Even though we're selling business to business, the user is an individual person. So we should be taking cues and best practices from the B2B, B2C space that can apply in the same way. So for example, we use a tool called Pendo. Pendo is an in-app messaging tool, and it's got kind of customer journey in there, but it is a way to communicate individually to that user based on their activity. So did you use feature A? Great, let's congratulate you. Did you not use feature A? Let's send you a reminder to do that. And so I do think that there's a lot of B2C type of marketing, type of psychology, type of outreach, type of congratulatory messages that we can send to people to boost up their dopamine hits by using the piece of the software. So all the things that if you're looking at your phone and you're scrolling through and you know that your brain's getting dopamine hits from these information on social media, let's feed into that as well and use some of those principles even within a B2B product.
Absolutely. So you talk about customers are people too. Good you talk about this, good you know about this, but why is it that some of these companies forget about it? That customers are people too, customers are not statistics, customers are not, just some revenue churning machine for them. Customers are not just their wallets.
Yeah, it's true. And I think the reason is because it's much easier to build playbooks. It's much easier to build processes that are, straightforward. It's like, this is how we deal with this segment of customers. This is our segment of users. And we just bucket people in. So it's hard to think of customers as individual people. It's much easier to think of groups and segments and build playbooks and processes around that. And so you should do that. You should have some process in there. But customer success, post-sale revenue, thinking about retention, thinking about expansion, it always comes with tons of variables. A new thing happened at that company, people left, something's going on in their market, something's going on out in the world with tariffs. So there's always a variable that will come into play. And so playbooks kind of sit on the shelf, playbooks go out the window. So, but it is easier to build those than to think on an individual level. So that is why companies forget that customers are people, because it's just easier to. But there is a better way to go.
Absolutely. So businesses forget. So let's them remind through profits itself. Even from a business perspective, Brian, if we see, how can businesses see it from the business side of being nice to their customers, potential customers? How would you like to tell them that, this is good business? Being nice to customers is a good business in that way. How do you want to tell them?
Yes, nice is one thing, but it's really got to come with some sort of strategy. So the strategy has to be, what do your customers and individual users want to achieve through your product? You have to be able to know that the answer to that question. And then you have to understand how they're measuring the value of that as well. So it's not just being nice. Yes, you need to be able to communicate, have a good marketing message, have a engaging website and UI and UX, and answer support tickets so that their experience is positive and that they feel good working with you and they feel heard by you as well. We can touch on that in a moment. But ultimately, it is really understanding what they're trying to achieve, how they're measuring value, and that you are there to make sure that they are successful in hitting those KPI, hitting those targets that they have. And that is really what is nice, is to be able to understand them, listen to them, and try to solve as many problems as you can.
Absolutely. So, what are the mistakes, if we can talk about that, these business leaders make when it comes to their revenue strategies vis-a-vis their customers?
Couple of things jump out to me. One is they don't know why customers are actually leaving. So when you have churn and you don't really know exactly why a customer leaves, that's a really difficult spot to be in. And so you start to field things like, oh, maybe if this feature was different, or if you fix this bug, or if this, the product could do more things. Then if we fix those, then we won't lose any customers. But it really comes back to answering the question, why is that customer not seeing quantifiable value with your product? So you have to understand that. So customers don't understand where churn really comes from and why their customers are not seeing actual value. And then the second is once you start to have churn, then you start to reach on your net new customers ICP as well. So you broaden who is in your customer profile, and you perhaps start to bring in poor fit customers. You start to overpromise to those customers. Oh yeah, the product can do this, the features can do that. Come on board, because you're losing customers, so your revenue is shrinking, and you know that you have to add top line, but you're a little desperate, and so you go broader. And so those two types of mistakes keep on building on top of each other, and until you plug that proverbial leaky bucket of revenue going out, you're never going to be able to get profitable. And so those two mistakes go hand in hand, and they are very, very common.
Right, Brian. So I want to understand, it's strange, that companies can tell that they don't know why the customer is leaving. You know about everything. You know about what problem your car is facing, why your relationship is going down, why your girlfriend is leaving, why your boyfriend is leaving, but you don't know why your customer is leaving. Why is it so? And who is in charge? Who should be responsible, or who is responsible for this entity, or alien entity called customer for an organization?
Depends on just depends on the setup. A lot of companies have customer success departments, so you have a customer success leader whose responsibility it is to understand some of these data points. Who are our best fit customers, who are not, and why? And so I think it's easy to build a process around being reactionary to customers, as opposed to being proactive with customers to talk about value. And if there's anything that matters when it comes to selling a customer a product, whether that is B2B or B2C, it is, what are their expectations, and are we meeting those expectations all the time or exceeding those expectations? So the regular communication with those customers has to be about, what are the outcomes that you're seeking? How are you measuring value? And are we meeting your expectations with those? And that is where customer success teams have a hard time, because we're always fielding feature requests or trying to deflect tickets, or whatever the situation is. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge to kind of set those aside and really, really focus in on what matters.
Right. So are there any numbers for these customer teams, getting fired anywhere across the world? Because customers have, anywhere in the world you go, Brian, customers have a lot of complaint.
Yeah.
Not because they only have a complaint with the product, but they can't reach the company from where they bought the product or service. You first meet the bots, and then you never meet a human. Humans are only available on LinkedIn and all those platforms talking about how great they are, but the customer is. So I want to understand, do they get fired for this? That because your customers are running away and you are talking about customer success? I want to be much more blunt on this, because why shouldn't we? Because a lot of people face a lot of problems. People who are buying smaller products, bigger products, everyone has a story. Almost every customer has a story, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if you're not listening to that story, or not creating an avenue for that customer, that user, to be heard, and feel like they matter, that experience will absolutely damage the relationship. And people should be fired for that if they're not if the customer is having a bad, crappy experience over and over, and somebody is responsible for creating that journey, creating those relationships, creating that pathway for them to exist within your product and feeling good about the product, and it's not there, then people should be held accountable to that for sure. Because to your point, everybody's got a story, and people are spending their hard-earned money on your product, and that's a special thing that people make that choice to hand you money, and they've got certain expectations on what they want back from that from a return perspective.
Absolutely, Brian. So, for those businesses who genuinely want to connect with their customers, some who want to do course correction, want a reset of the relationship, what is it that they can do to genuinely connect with their customers in today's time?
The first step is to reach out to as many customers as you can and talk to them about the quantifiable ways that they are measuring value from the product. How are you seeing value from this product? Are you or are you not? And our feelings won't be hurt. we are here to make sure that you are successful, and we want to make sure that we're asking the most foundational question, which is, are you getting value from the product? And if you start that, you're going to start to see a snowball effect of people giving you quality feedback that you may or may not have even expected.
Absolutely. And when talking of firing, you also talk about fire your customers. Why is that? Why do you want your fire? And help us understand a bit more about
Firing customers, it's necessary sometimes. It is necessary sometimes. If you have a poor fit customer, and what I mean by poor fit here is that they are not going to be able to see value from your product. They are not here they haven't dedicated the proper resources. They have a poor use case fit. Their workflow isn't needed. They need a bunch of integrations that you don't want to do. They want a bunch of features that you don't feel like you're going to want to build. They send in a lot of complaints, and they're just not worth the time because they will never be profitable. It is okay to let that customer go. It is okay to let that customer go and backfill them with a much better customer that, by the way, you've learned that who the poor fit customer is. Then let's go find the opposite of that. Let's go find somebody who has a good use case, can adopt quickly, can see value, is communicative. And when you narrow your ICP, it's really helpful to stay profitable.
Absolutely. Some customers can be quite difficult also, and it is important to recognize for them, for organization's sake, for your own sake, and leave those customers and get on to the better ones. And when we talk about customers, and organizations, let's talk about you. Who is your ideal customer here, Brian?
For me, it is from the consulting side, I work with Series B companies or later. So growth stage companies, ideally those that are feeling the pain of churn, feeling the opportunity of expansion, and wanting to know who their best fit customers are so that they can maximize the efforts of a bunch of teams, build products that people will find valuable. And so there's many, many companies out there that are led by really quality teams, sharp people, good investment backers, but they're still struggling with churn and they're not really sure why. Those are the opportunities I love to dig my teeth into and help solve for people.
Absolutely. There's much to learn about all these things from you, Brian. And I'm sure a lot of people, a lot of businesses will want to connect with you, learn more about humanity, about how to be nice to customers, how to give better service to customers. What is the best way for them to do so?
I am on LinkedIn, Brian Hansen. BrianHansenConsulting.com is my website. And by all means, I think if we put the LinkedIn in the show notes, that's a great place to find me. I'm always hanging out over there.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.